It's frustrating to try to find answers when I don't have the vocabulary to even ask the right questions. That comes up pretty regularly in this process of learning game development. It's like trying to find the name of a song when you only know a little bit of the melody, like not even the chorus, right? But luckily, there's a wealth of knowledge on the internet, and it just takes a little bit of persistence to find what you need. Last week, I had an issue trying to decide how precise to make my vaulting system, and there's two things that really helped me figure out what to do next. The first one was learning about forgiveness mechanics, and the second one was input from y'all. So today we're just gonna chat about both of those things. So first things first, forgiveness mechanics. So Seth, what's his name? A developer named Seth did a talk at GDC in which they defined forgiveness mechanics, and we're just gonna go over a high-level description of what they talked about in the video. Of course, I'll link that video down in the description below. But let's just start by defining forgiveness mechanics. So the concept behind forgiveness mechanics is that people are inconsistent and code is very binary. So we should make up for inconsistencies in the design of our code, and when we do that, it results in controls that feel much more responsive, right? So an example that's given in this talk is jumping. If you've ever played a platforming game, you might have noticed that you're still allowed to jump for a fraction of a second after your player has gone off the edge of the platform. That's called coyote jumping, and it's specifically put in games because people are very inconsistent and they will hit the jump button too late, but you don't want your game to feel too punishing, right? And so in this talk, Seth also defines something called the input forgiveness sandwich. So the idea here is you want to have something built into your code to handle early input forgiveness, and then you want to have something built in to handle late input forgiveness. Now, the rule of thumb that I went with when I did this was I wanted my character movement to always line up with the player's expectation. So I'm just going to go over 4 things that I did to kind of help make these vaults feel more forgiving and just a little bit better overall. So let me get into the engine here. I had originally set up vaulting to fire a single line trace and detect if anything was in front of the player and decide what to do from there. The problem with that was that if you hit it too early, it would just do a normal jump, and it ended up feeling like, well, it didn't match the player's intent. I was intending to vault over something, and I was just getting a normal jump. So the way that I decided to address that is to do input buffering, right? So input buffering is when you take an input and you store it until it becomes valid to use the input, and then you execute the action automatically, right? Now I did a pretty fast and loose version of that, and forgive me, my code is still a mess. I haven't cleaned it up yet. But basically what I'm doing is when the player hits the jump button, we fire a line trace. And if that line trace doesn't hit anything, instead of immediately going into a normal jump, we delay for 0.2 seconds and we fire another line trace. And if that one doesn't hit anything, we delay one more time and then we fire another line trace. And if that line trace does hit something, we carry on with a normal vault. But if it doesn't, we just do a regular jump. Now, the reason why I like this better than other solutions that I was trying is because it never feels like the player is losing control of their character, right? So if I hit the jump button and decide to do some weird maneuver where I just turn to the side, it it still does a normal jump. Like it doesn't lock me into doing a vault. But when it's time to vault, the vault still happens as expected, right? And it was also great that this worked for every other type of climbing up and jumping over animation that I had. Um, so yeah, buffering, input buffering for early inputs seemed like it was the best way to go. So I think we're gonna stick with that. Now for late input forgiveness, I decided to not snap to locations, right? So if we hit the vault button and we're a little bit too far away, the character will snap slightly to the wall. It's barely even noticeable. They snap slightly to the wall and they do the vaulting animation, right? Now if we're too late and we do a snapping animation, it just looks really jarring. So for now, I've just left it so late inputs just play the animation as expected. And I think the workaround for this would be to find just a better vaulting animation that doesn't. I think it looks the most jarring with higher walls, players completely phasing through the environment. But we can find a way to address that. We might just have to. I haven't figured out. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't figured out how to completely address those yet. But I think it's a step in the right direction. Now, some other things I did to make this look smoother was I just updated animation blend times. And if you go back and look at the last video, my character was losing a ton of momentum after vaulting. So I put in a change to basically force the player to maintain momentum by changing the way that I get the player's speed. So yeah, vaulting no longer removes momentum for the player. So I also wanted to talk about the input that I got from the community that kind of helped me come to a decision, because y'all left some great comments on the YouTube videos that really did inform how I was going to proceed. And this is why I asked y'all for y'all's input, because y'all have a lot of good things to say. Y'all are gamers, y'all are knowledgeable, y'all know what's going on, y'all know what's fire, and y'all know what's trash. So I'm just gonna highlight a few comments from the last video. This first one's from Melly. Particularly this last sentence. Melly says, overall, I think it depends on the importance of control in the game that you're trying to make. And Chris First Backlog, friend of the channel, make sure you check him out on Twitch. Chris First Backlog said, look to your gameplay for focus. In a stealth platformer, is the gameplay requirement for the player to precisely navigate obstacles, or is it to read the environment and choose the right path? I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer here, but your solution will shape your game. Right? The point these two people were trying to make is you got to remember what your design pillars are. You got to remember the game that you're trying to make, and you can't get caught up in the small details, right? So ultimately, this movement system, while it's important and while it's a key part of the game, I don't think it warrants spending as much time as I'm spending on it trying to make it perfect at this point, right? We're still in the gray boxing phase. We're still very early in the development of this game. So I think things are at a good enough place for me to leave them now and move on to the next thing. The next thing is going to be wall running, and I'm going to give a higher level explanation of what I'm doing next week. But this week, I'm just going to show you the progress that I've made thus far, and lower your expectations, because It's really nothing crazy yet. It's just a start. It's just a start. But it's a good start nonetheless. So right now I have it set up so if I'm next to a wall and I jump, I do have my mannequin sticking to the wall. It is and slowly falling off the wall, right? So I think the next step is going to be to put in the animations that I want for this, and then probably apply some sort of force push to give me more momentum so I can stay up on the wall for longer. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. So as always, I want to hear what y'all think about this. If you're watching this on YouTube, I do record these videos live. I like to interact with y'all over on Twitch. And after this, we're just going to go play some Resident Evil 4, hang out and have a good time. So I'd love to see y'all over there. And as always, let me know what your thoughts are. Hopefully this video helped you, because learning about forgiveness mechanics really helped me. But I will be back next week. I don't know how much progress I'm gonna make next week because y'all know it's Mother's Day and I got a lot of mother figures in my life that I want to do something for. So regardless of how much progress I make on these games, I'm gonna do a devlog every week just for transparency's sake. Yeah, that's it, y'all. Peace.